In this video, I'll demonstrate how to install the SSM agent on an EC2 instance. So here we are in the AWS console, and the first step of my process is going to be to go to IAM. And under IAM, I'm going to click on roles, and we are going to create a new role. So let's just click on create roles, and I'm going to choose EC2 as my use case, and I'll click next here. And then under permissions and policies, I'm just going to search for SSM. And the specific policy that I'm looking for is the Amazon SSM Managed Instance Core. So I will check that option, and I'll go ahead and click on next. And then I'll give my role a name. I'm just going to call it Rick Creasy SSM role. And I'll scroll down to the bottom and I'll click on create role. So now I've created the necessary role. Let's go to EC2. And within EC2, I already have an EC2 instance running that I'm going to use to install the SSM agent on. So I'm just going to go to that instance and I'm going to click on connect. And I'm going to use EC2 Instance Connect to establish a command line session to this EC2 instance. So in here, I'm going to type in sudo su to become a super user, and I'm just going to clear my screen and start from a blank slate here. And I'm going to type in the command systemctl status amazon-ssm-agent. And yeah, here we can see that the SM agent is active and running on this particular EC2 instance. And so because this is an Amazon Linux AMI based EC2 instance, the SSM agent is automatically installed inside of this instance. So I did not have to install the SSM agent. Now, if I was using a different operating system, there are different procedures to install those SSM agents. And so if I'm doing Windows or Mac or Linux, there are different ways that I can install these SSM agents on those different instance types. And by the way, you can install this agent inside of virtual machines or servers in your on-premises environment as well. So for example, let's assume that I'm using CentOS. It'll give me the necessary commands here to install the SSM agent and to start the service. And so it's a relatively straightforward installation process for those other operating systems as well. And we can look at the installation process for Windows. Again, a relatively straightforward installation process. You'll just get into PowerShell and issue some commands, or you can directly download it and install it that way with an exe file. Now, once the agent is actually installed, we can go back to the AWS console and we're going to search for Systems Manager here. And here we are in the Systems Manager screen. And let's scroll down here on the left under Node Management, and let's go to Fleet Manager. This is where we are going to manage all of our individual servers. And so at the moment, you can see there's nothing shown here. I'm going to just go ahead and click on Get Started here under Fleet Manager. And at the moment, you can see I do not have any managed nodes. Now, why is that? Even though I have an EC2 instance with the SSM agent installed, that's not showing up here. Well, let's go take a closer look at that EC2 instance. And when we look at this EC2 instance, the critical thing is going to be which role is assigned to this EC2 instance. And you can see here there's no IAM role assigned to this instance. That's my problem. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Actions for this instance. And under Security, I'm going to modify the IAM role. And I'm going to choose an IAM role called Rick Creasy SSM role. And I'm going to apply that IAM role. And so that IAM role is going to allow Systems Manager the ability to access this EC2 instance. And so now that I've applied that role to that EC2 instance, I'm back in Fleet Manager under AWS Systems Manager, but I still need to give it some time. I have to give it some time. It's going to check once every 30 minutes for new inventory by default. So I'm just going to pause my recording and I'll come back in about half an hour and see if my node has shown up. Okay, so it's been about 30 minutes and I can see that my node is now available here inside of Systems Manager. And so I can select this node and I can perform a variety of actions here. I could start a terminal session. I could connect with remote desktops. I could run commands. I could view the file system. I could view performance counters. I could reset the password. I could change the IAM role in EC2. So there's all sorts of cool stuff that I can do here. Let's just for the fun of it try View File System. And so when I click on View File System, I can actually see the files and folders within this node. Let's go back to Fleet Manager, choose this node, and actually let's click on the node itself. And we can see all sorts of stuff about the node here in this window. And again, I can take all of these node actions here as well. And one other thing that's interesting here, we can click on users and groups and we can actually see the local users present within this operating system. And so we can do things like search for users here, like for example, I could search for root. And if I were to add new users, like for example, let's say I do user add Rick demo and add a new user to the operating system of this EC2 instance. Well, when I go back to Systems Manager, I can search for this user Rick and I can refresh here, let it fetch that data from the operating system of the EC2 instance. And there we go. It's telling me all the users that are present inside the operating system of this EC2 instance. So in this video, we learned about installing the SSM agent on our EC2 instances, assigning the appropriate role to those EC2 instances, and then making those nodes available inside Fleet Manager by assigning them that appropriate role.